Today, residents of Belgorod, Rostov, the Moscow region, and various other Russian areas were abruptly reminded what it's like to be without electricity, heat, and water during the winter season. Ukraine has now struck at Russia's energy infrastructure. Online, it's already being referred to as Madyar's Blackout. So, what exactly do we know regarding these most recent strikes, and at what point will we fully plunge Russia into complete darkness? But the pivotal inquiry, my dear friends, that undoubtedly occupies both your thoughts and mine, revolves around the current state of our energy system subsequent to enduring months of unrelenting and brutal attacks. Are we really, as the American publication The Washington Post writes, on the verge of collapse? Let's try to figure that out now. But first, subscribe, like, and comment on this YouTube channel. This is all incredibly vital for our community's growth. And so, not to waste any time, let's just begin immediately. So, what exactly transpired last night? There was a massive drone attack targeting the energy infrastructure of the Russian Federation. First, let's take a look at this incredible footage of how we're tormenting Russia, and then secondly, we'll examine the geography. Well, for example, Moscow and the Moscow region. Explosions in the Istrinsky district and near Kashira. Domodedovo, Zhukovsky, and several other airports ceased operations for a few hours. What's more, some parts of the Moscow region lost power. Next up, we have the Rostov region. This is actually where the most widespread impact took place. Rostov itself, along with at least 11 additional districts, suffered greatly from these attacks. The consequences are that a number of districts in Rostov were left without heating because CHP Plant 2 was shut down. That's right, we hit a CHP plant. In the Kamensky district, they're without water supply, meaning no water. Rostov itself is without power. Next, Belgorod. If you believe the activity concludes there, you're mistaken, my friends. Belgorod also experienced incoming strikes, including a direct hit on the Luch CHP plant. And after the strike there, we really did see a beautiful ray of light. The city is without power, emergency work is underway, and the locals are being told, "We've had an accident, don't worry," and this has nothing to do with Ukrainian drones. Every time Ukraine sends drones to Belgorod, they always have some kind of accident. However, the drones bear absolutely no relation to this. And incidentally, I've observed this peculiarity exclusively in Belgorod. What their governor is smoking, I truly don't know. Next, Astrakhan is on our list, likely due to damage at the Astrakhan gas processing plant, with NASA satellites confirming a fire. This is a very serious facility. It warrants a dedicated episode. You just need to get that this is a highly significant target. Voronezh. Power outages were also recorded there due to a direct hit. In some districts, power still hasn't been restored, and there are problems with heat and water, among other things. So, what do you, my friends, think? Is this simply a coincidence, or is it not? This is because Robert Madyar Blackout, the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, had previously announced a blackout in Russia. He said it clearly: the birds from the USF Unmanned Systems Forces promise you a swift, albeit somewhat forced adaptation. This is a great reply to constant attacks on our energy sector. Not just a response in words, but in deeds, because this is already the second blackout from Madyar. The second, this shows our capabilities, and it's a reminder to that aggressor that their actions can have consequences on their side too. Yes, it must be said they are not immediately the same as what we experience. And we will discuss this in detail shortly, but eventually we are demonstrating that we possess the capability to dismantle their energy infrastructure. But sadly, after months of attacks, our energy system has suffered colossal damage. And now it's important to understand what state we're in. That's what we'll discuss next. What is the overall scale of this? The Washington Post, an influential American paper, writes our energy system nears collapse. Why? Because as the Deputy Minister of Energy reports, while at the beginning of the year Russia was launching about 2,000 drones and missiles a month, by November it was already around 5,000. The enemy's logistics have changed. The attacks have become more dense, more targeted. The primary threat, as reported by European diplomats, analysts, and interviewed Ukrainian officials, is Russia's objective to divide Ukraine's unified energy system into two distinct sections: a western part, where energy is actively produced, and the eastern, where it's used. That's a rough idea. Or to create so-called energy islands, completely isolating entire regions. This isn't merely a power cut, dear friends. It's a strategic menace, to be candid. Washington Post journalists report that, regrettably, we are experiencing an equipment deficit, as they quote DTEK's CEO, Maxim Timchenko. He highlights the primary issue, the extensive search throughout Europe for replacement transformers and gas compressors for those that have been destroyed. Without them, quick restoration is impossible. The Washington Post outlines 3 scenarios for future actions. So what happens next? The worst-case scenario, which is already happening now, is the continuation of massive attacks without rapid supplies of the necessary repair equipment. This will trigger regional collapses, such as in Odessa, a true nightmare we will discuss later, and critically undermine the stability of the entire unified system. The second scenario, stabilization, is both realistic and achievable, right? The arrival of transformers and other equipment from Europe, bolstered protection of critical facilities, and consumer adaptation. The system will operate in a strict conservation mode with scheduled outages, of course, but without a catastrophic collapse. The third potential scenario is an energy truce, as this particular scenario is not just improbable. In my view, it's downright impossible, because a temporary agreement regarding a non-aggression pact on the infrastructure of both sides, where President Zelensky reached out to Moscow proposing an energy truce, was simply dismissed. Indeed, Kiev advanced this idea, yet Moscow declined to even entertain it. This suggests that the Kremlin views energy terror as a deliberate, unyielding strategy. And you know when they will agree to an energy truce? When we keep hitting them hard in the Caspian Sea, in the Black Sea, taking out their refineries with double the force, friends. We now have the perfect opportunity to exact revenge on the Russians, and this can be accomplished by simply contributing to our ongoing fundraiser. The 48th Special Forces Unit, currently operating directly on the front line, is in dire need of our collective assistance. The total is 400,000 hryvnias. Do you know how much we've raised? 320,000. 320,000. I thank you all for contributing, dear friends. 1 hryvnia, 2, 5, 10. We are rapidly approaching our goal of 400,000 hryvnias. Just a reminder, I'm putting all the necessary information in the description below this video, and I'll make sure to pin it in the comments section. Please join. Whatever you can give, 1, 2, 5, 10, 100, it doesn't matter. Let's reach this target of 400,000 hryvnias, which seemed unrealistic at first, and now we're almost there. Just a little bit left. The guys will be very grateful. So thank you to everyone who donates. And now, friends, about forecasts. The predictions everyone finds frightening. Because if you check Telegram, open the internet, look things up, I don't know, switch to some channel, the predictions are consistently terrifying. There are 2 points of view. The first is super pessimistic. For example, the head of the Union of Consumers of Public Utilities, Ole Popenko, you've all surely heard his statement, says that without an energy truce, which Russia has already rejected, I remind you, in temperatures of -5, -10 degrees, Kyiv could be without power for 20 to 22 hours a day. And the second point of view is critical of this panic. Energy security expert Mikhailo Honchar says that such precise forecasts are basically just reading tea leaves. He believes those who propose such scenarios don't grasp how the unified energy system currently operates, do they? He states it's not forecasting, but rather outright psychological warfare. His argument suggests that current predictions are challenging, as they hinge on new attacks, available equipment, repair speed, and so forth. And personally, I agree with that. What do you think, friends? Which viewpoint resonates with you more now, the first or the second? Share in the comments. Sadly, the situation in Odessa stands out as the most telling illustration of the current state of affairs. I deeply sympathize with the people of Odessa, the residents and guests of our southern Palmyra, because what's happening there now is truly a nightmare. This marks the third, in fact, almost the fourth day of an almost complete blackout, following an attack involving over 300 drones and missiles. There's no electricity in the city, though it comes on in some places. Trams and trolley buses are also not running, and the heating has been shut down. Buses are running and generators are powering the critical infrastructure. Water's slowly coming back, though water supply was a real issue there. Water was distributed to residents, and I was informed by members of parliament currently in Odessa, off the record, that people were also getting water from public pumps. And beyond that, it's essential to mention that the primary gathering spots in the city currently are locations where one can recharge their phone, correct? In high-rise buildings, the elevators don't work, and in all-electric homes, meaning those with electric stoves, it's hard to cook, and food is spoiling in refrigerators. The hardest part is that the constant alerts and shelling complicate the work of the emergency crews. When asked when the power will be back, the energy workers answer, honestly, we don't know because the shelling is ongoing. They mention various dates. I refrain from making predictions, as some speak of the 16th of December, which is today, while others are saying as late as the 20th. Some say it will be a protracted ordeal. We won't speculate on this, but simply state, regrettably, that this is a major problem. And this is a living illustration of what real energy terrorism is. And friends, it's an example of people's resilience and mutual support. So to conclude, Madyar, what a rock star. Ukraine has clearly demonstrated its capability to execute accurate attacks on the aggressor's energy infrastructure. But it's not enough. We need to keep hitting them hard. Our energy system is in a critical state, as reported by the Washington Post, though it's not entirely without hope. The possibility of the grid fracturing is genuine, yet our energy professionals are making extraordinary efforts to avert it. What we require are transformers, air defense systems, and adequate time for necessary repairs. Currently, panic serves as our most detrimental ally, as it is crucial to heed official announcements primarily, brace for inevitable outages, yet not dwell in anticipation of some unavoidable downfall. That's incorrect. The toughest situation is currently in frontline and coastal regions, such as Odessa. They need our support and help, so let's back Odessa. For those of you watching from the Odessa region, please let us know how you're doing in the comments. And on that note, I'll wrap it up and thank you, dear friends, for watching this episode to the end. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. See you next time.